Welcome in. It is Sunday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. That can only mean one thing. It is time for the Overreaction off-season show with myself, the Big O Jerry Ostrowski, and my main man, John Fina. But real quick, as we're back from a little bit of a hiatus, let's hear from our great sponsors over at the BFLO store.
Shopping for that special occasion? The BFLO store is the perfect place to begin for all things Buffalo. You'll discover the largest selection of Buffalo products and brand collabs not available anywhere else. From licensed team sportswear and gifts to Buffalo apparel and home decor. Visit any of our convenient locations or shop online. You'll find something for everyone. And you just never know who you may see shopping there. The BFLO store, Western New York's premier retail destination. Official retailer of the Buffalo Bills and Sabres.
Let's go BFLO. As the official retailer of the Buffalo Bills, the BFLO store has you covered with all things Buffalo sports, city-themed and more, from cold weather gear to the best items for your fan cave. Shop right now at bfloshop.com or visit any of their 4 locations at the Transit Town Plaza, Boulevard Consumer Square, McKinley Mall, or Walden Galleria Mall. That is the BFLO store. Mr. Fina, man, what's going on?
Well, I got to tell you, I got this ball cap and this hoodie at the BFLO store, and I love it. I need 5 more so I could wear it every day.
Well, you know,
like Einstein, I just have one outfit: the Bills ball cap, the Bills hoodie, and I'm golden.
Well, I'm representing all over the board today. I got a little Trench Mafia on. I got a little UNI Panthers hat on. I'm trying to diversify a little bit since we're in the off season, show a little love for some different groups that I'm associated with. So anyway, John, we are officially in the off season, and hey, I guess you have to say congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for this. They win the World Championship, Super Bowl champs. They just absolutely dismantled the Kansas City Chiefs. Just real fast before we get into what we want to talk about today. Did anything surprise you from that game? Because for me, I guess maybe other than Kansas City didn't have some success offensively, it kind of went as I thought it would go.
What surprised me is that we didn't, as the Buffalo Bills, take a page out of what the Texans did against Kansas City and bring that attitude from the front 4 or 6 to the game, right? Because that was really what was missing at our part. And after that game, I was like, oh my God, if I'm Greg Rousseau and Epinesa and Von Miller and Smoot, I mean, I'm going right at those tackles. They're giving up a soft set. They were getting pushed like crazy. I mean, to me, as a player, the amount of film that we digest, it's beg, borrow, and steal. So from the first quarter, you asked me if I was surprised when I saw that the Eagles received my ESP message about how to attack the edge of the Kansas City tackles. I'd say no. But once they got rolling, to me, it just looked like, I don't want to say panic, but a little bit of like, oh crap, we've never really had anybody deal to us this hard. Right. And I guess that's how I feel about it.
And I think, the one reason I wanted to talk about that game is because obviously Philadelphia had the blueprint to beat Kansas City. It's what a lot of people had talked about. It's something we weren't able to do, and that's get extreme pressure rushing for. The amazing stat of that football game, Vic Fangio and that Philadelphia Eagles defense did not blitz one time in that game. All that pressure was with their front 4, which leads us into today's conversation as we get into this offseason. We've talked about it many, many times, the need to get better up front, not on defense, not just at defensive end, but also probably inside at tackle. And we're going to talk about that as it kind of relates to another topic that's popped up over the last week in Bills Mafia land, and that is one James Cook. And first and foremost is this, and John, you know this as well as anything, and we talked about this off the air. I have no problem with James Cook coming out and putting a number out there and saying he wants $15 million. That's what you do. You're a player. You want to make the most money you can make. And you know what? The elite running backs, that's what they are making. But I think today's show and today's topic, John, as we move on, is is James Cook worth that $15 million price tag a year? And, my first question to you would be this. Obviously, looking at the Bills, the needs they have, let's forget about that. And let me ask you this question. If we decide that he is not worth $15 million, or we don't re-sign him after this season, because he does have one more year left on his rookie deal, and we risk losing him to free agency, is that going to handcuff or cripple this football team? Do you think he's that vital to this team that we have to figure out a way to get him re-signed and not allow him to go into free agency?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that question, Jerry. And I would say no. I don't think he cripples this team. There's going to be a lack of experience. There might be a little bit of a knowledge gap in the running game, knowing how your guys up front block and move and position players on defense. But by and large, no, it doesn't cripple the offense. And as I was kind of mulling the topic over, and agree with me or disagree with me, there's a number of options, right? You let him go. He goes to free agency. I don't know if there's is there a trade option? Can we trade and pick up picks, right? Third is, hey, we just let him play out the year. And there's arguments to be made and downsides to all these kind of things, but ostensibly the argument is a serviceable top 20 type running back going to get us over the hump if we have a game breaker on offense at the wide receiver position? And I think that really becomes the argument, because 15, I'm not paying 15. And I love James Cook. And I will say to any Bills Mafia fan that you look at him as having a breakout year this year, that's not James Cook's fault. They didn't get him into the game quickly enough as a rookie. I think we'd have had more, I guess, intrinsic value, or we might feel a little bit stronger. Those who are saying, like I am, offer him 8. That puts him in the top 10 or 15 running backs. But if he doesn't go, I wish him well.
I think that one thing that John and I can speak on, and this is something I wanted to kind of get into a little bit, considering that it's just John and I tonight. Joe's not able to be with us. He'll be on next week. But when I think about running backs, John and I had the pleasure of playing multiple years with one of the best complete running backs to ever play the game of football. Maybe in some instances, and I truly believe this, Thurman Thomas was the back that set the stage for a lot of these backs we see today, that they're not just rushers. They also catch the ball out of the backfield, make tons of plays in the passing game. And probably Thurman's most underrated aspect as a player, and when I say underrated, by people that watch the game that aren't in the locker room and the meeting rooms, because we know that it probably was his best attribute, and that was his ability to pick up the blitz and pass block on third down. Thurman was a complete third down back, was the guy that was the blueprint for these people we see today playing the game. When I think about James Cook, and I'm not trying to compare James Cook to a guy that's in the Hall of Fame. You can also compare him to a Saquon Barkley, because if you watch that Philadelphia Eagles game, some of the big plays they made in the passing game was due to Saquon picking up the blitz. And to me, if you were going to pay a running back premium money, that probably is one thing they have to do more than anything else. Yes, we love him to, he was drafted to be that kind of pass catching running back. And through his maturation as a back and everything, he's now become the first and second down guy. We've got Ty Johnson and others to catch the ball out of the backfield and then also pick up the blitz and pass block, because James is not very good at it. And it's hard for me to pay top 5 money, $15 million a year money, to a running back that's not a complete back. And again, we go into this conversation. We love James Cook. We want him on our football team. We're strictly comparing salary to player in today's game and then tying it into the Bills' needs at other areas.
Exactly, Jerry. And I think if you want to undress the argument a little bit further, right? There are just so many ways to strip this down. What does it look like not paying 15 to James Cook for what we need to do on defense? What does it mean to put James Cook behind an arguably top 5 offensive line in the league? What is it, or James Cook or other? What does it mean, to have a guy like Josh Allen who becomes a dual threat in so many circumstances? That's the real balance. To me, the only option that I don't love is him playing out his 4th year.
Right.
Now, what's your take on that? And I'll give you mine, but I'm curious. So you got trade him for picks if you can, let him go in free agency, and keep him for his 4th year, right? Or extend him,
right.
I guess
the dream scenario, John, would be to come up with a happy medium and be able to get him tied up before he hits free agency. Okay. If he puts his foot down and he does not want to do that because he wants to test the free agent waters, we probably don't see him again in Buffalo, because there's going to be teams out there that have more cap money than we do and will overpay a little bit to get a guy like James Cook in their locker room, because obviously, like we said, he's a hell of a first and second down back. But to me, if this thing lingers, and I look at our needs, and I've written some free agent names down in the free agent market, but obviously the top areas of concern: field stretching wide receiver, pass rushing defensive end. You can even go and say impact player, plugger at defensive interior line. Cornerback obviously will probably trump that. So you could probably go D end, or you can go wide receiver, D end, cornerback, and then also if you got something there and you fall into something, safeties, right? If this thing becomes a problem and it becomes noisy, I've said this already on the show, and I'll say it until after the draft, until we see what they do. I don't think Buffalo needs to worry about picking 30th, or even some of their say, if they got to deal picks to get players, this is the year to deal picks to get players. We don't need to develop any more players at this present moment. We need impact players to get us over the hump. So they've got to take those picks. And then if you have James Cook and you don't think you're going to be able to re-sign him, and it makes sense to put him in a deal, you put him in a deal. And I just believe the need of these other areas are higher than the need to keep James on the roster. I really like Ty Johnson. I really like Davis. Look at our running backs the year before. There's a list of running backs out there that are available that we could probably bring in.
And Frank Gore Jr.,
right,
on the development squad.
Exactly. So it's like, it's one of those things where, yes, it's a terrible scenario. You don't want to lose the guy. But in turn, when you look at the big picture, John, what's more important? You know?
So I love what you're saying here, Jerry, and I'm with you 100%. The only wrinkle that I would add is, when it comes to defense, would you rather have lockdown corners or 4 guys that get there now repeatedly? And to me, I would rather get there now repeatedly and kind of design a little bit more structure on my zone coverage, my man under, safeties over the top. And I'll tell you why and who, right? So I like the idea of a game wrecker. I think we got to go wide receiver, stretch the field. I think we got to figure out a way to get that guy in at defensive end. But I also see that we need interior defensive line. No, that's my top 3 in free agency. And when you go back and look at the Super Bowl, it wasn't just the push that the tackles got, or the defensive ends, the edge guys got. It's at the same time, there was just an extra 1.5 yard collapse on the front 3. So when Mahomes felt the compression at the width, he wanted to escape forward, but those lanes were really tight. And we need guys that are physical and you've heard me say it a million times, Rousseau with his hand on the ground, going into the center of a tackle is a much better beginning move than him on 2 feet. He doesn't have the fastest first step, and he doesn't commit to a move. So I'm wide receiver, edge, run stopper, and a guy that can push the pocket. And then beyond that, not sure.
But if you look at what the Bills are doing this offseason on the coaching staff, they're giving you a preview of what they're going to do in the draft and free agency and in trade scenarios. And some of the names slip my mind, so I apologize. But they go out, they hire the assistant defensive line coach. It's from Western New York, from Clarence. I believe he was in Seattle. He went to Cortland State to come in and work with the D-line as well, pass rush guy. They bring in the former defense coordinator of the New Orleans Saints, a guy that to come in and be a senior advisor for the defensive side of the ball. He's a guy that's a man coverage guy. Now they're going to bring in Mike Pellegrino from the Patriots, who also is a man guy. So if you look at what they're doing coaching wise, they're kind of giving you a blueprint of what they want. I think the days of passivity and just trying to sit in a 4-2-5 all the time, probably not going to happen. I think
so. So with those additions at coaching, do you see us being more schematic over the top with an emphasis on rushing 4, or do you see it more as bringing 5 or 6 and coaching up better man techniques on the edges?
Well, I think you're going to see a little bit of both. I think you're going to, if you can go ahead, if they want to continue to run the 4-2-5, they've got to get 4 defensive linemen that can get home on a regular basis.
And you know what, Jerry? You could stop right there for me, because that to me is the argument. That
but
right
you
there,
know as well as I do.
Encapsulated it. Yeah, and then you can coach scheme over the top.
Corners and defensive linemen all work together. If you got a shutdown corner, that gives the defensive end more time to get home. If you've got a defensive end that gets home quick, the corner looks better because of coverage.
And that's what I want.
Hand in hand. Yeah, they all play hand in hand. I think with the spread game and those types of things, you've got to have guys, because with teams spreading out, doing things like that, you have the ability to get rushing lanes and things of that nature. You've got to be able to get home with 4. So I think if you pay attention to what's going on, I think there's going to be some scheme changes defensively in Buffalo this offseason. I think they're going to go probably to more man than they have in the past. They'll sit in their 4-2-5 when they need to. Pellegrino is going to be the nickelbacks coach, so obviously the nickelback is still going to be a big part of what they do, but they've got to get better up front. I mean, it's that simple. So does James Cook then become a piece to get that defensive front better, right? And when I say that, I mean, does he become a piece as far as a trade guy? I love the draft as much as everybody. But we've got guys on this roster across the board from last year that have a ton of talent that we've got to develop. We can't afford to develop any more players.
I agree.
They talked about a Marquise Brown coming in, Hollywood Brown coming in to stretch the field. I think that'd be great. You've got guys like Slanton from the Giants that can do that. You got, Chris Godwin, who's coming off the ankle injury, but he's a really good receiver. I mean, you've got different dudes. You've got other areas where we got to get people in here. And obviously the main prize, and until it's settled, it's going to be the number one focal point of the fan base. Plus, I would imagine the front office, and that's the Myles Garrett situation. Do you get Myles Garrett,
Max Crosby,
and see Myles to
Josh
me,
Sweat, Hassan Reddick. I mean, I don't know about him from Dallas. You got Lawrence.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of options out there, I think, and no offense to Mr. Rousseau, but I think a lot of those options right now look a lot better than he does. Right. And flipping back to what we said, who makes our running backs look best? Is it Josh Allen? Is it the offensive line? Or is it both? And are there enough equipped, moderately talented, high talented running backs that can step in for $6 or $7 million a year or $4 and be part of that trio between, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, and then add next name. And look, I love James Cook. I've been a fan since the day he got here, from the day he was drafted. I don't think we used him quickly enough and well enough, but I also believe what you're saying, and I think most of Bills Mafia is put an offer out there for him that is more friendly to the organization and our cap than it is to him, but still puts him in the top, say, 12 or 14 highest paid running backs. And then if that doesn't fly, look for the trade. I don't think we get any value out of cutting him, right? We can't really cut him.
You don't cut him.
We want to hold, not cut him or let him go, right?
He either plays the season and then moves on in free agency, or he becomes part of a trade agreement with another team. But, it's just, to me anyway, we're, everybody's focused on this because he comes out this week on social. I think it was on YouTube and somebody's podcast, and makes the $15 million a year reference. But when you look at this football team over the past 2 to 3 years, last offseason, all we grinched about was wide receiver and more wide receivers. And we need more of this, we need more of that. But over the last 3 to 4 years, the reason this team has not gone over the hump has not been because of the wide receiver room. It's not been because of the running back room. It's not been obviously not because of the quarterback room. It's been because the defense has been absolutely inept. And not
inept when it matters. It was enough. It's enough in the regular season, occasional playoff game, but when we needed them to deliver, they haven't. And so I got a question for you, Jerry. I'm James Cook. I don't get my deal. I don't get traded. I come back. I'm here with the 2 guys I played with last year. And now, what's that attitude look like? I mean, if the Bills feature him to try to get, obviously get that Super Bowl, that makes him more valuable, or we let him go. You get that Super Bowl, you let him go. And in how are you positioning him? Are you developing Ty Johnson and Ray Davis more? He gets fewer carries. Maybe his attitude goes in the tank. Do you think, and that's my question, is there concern that his attitude goes in the tank if he doesn't get his deal, he plays out his 4th, and we feature Ty and Ray Davis a little bit more, and you'll be damn sure he's doing the numbers on carries and touches and plays, etc.
Well, I don't think that this locker room allows him to go in the tank. The leadership in that room has been so impressive to me. The Deion Dawkinses, the Josh Allens, and the likes. I'd say Von Miller, but I don't think Von Miller will be here next year. I don't think that they allow that to happen, and I don't think James is that kind of player. But then again, we can all be shocked, right?
Yeah,
we can all be shocked, and all of a sudden it happens. But I think the biggest thing is, and we wanted to talk about this, and also Ralph Wilson Sr. brings up a good point. We also got a new strength and conditioning coach this year. There's been question marks about, Dalton Kincaid's durability because of lack of strength and size, and not being able to get open because of that. We've had a massive rash of injuries over the last few years. I still think that strength coach is a good strength coach, but when it comes down to it and players are getting injured and not being on the field, that's where the buck stops. And that's where the change is usually made. So they're obviously making a change there as well after, I believe, 13 years. So we'll have a new leader of the weight room as well.
Yeah, it's so hard to quantify that, right? If it's the strength coach, just bad luck. I think certainly, there's got to be a way to convince guys to stick around and work with a strength coach. And that starts with, is that guy knowledgeable? I mean, the amount of information in strength and conditioning coaching is just absurd. People ask me if I train my boys, and I'm like, not even close. I have no idea what I'd be doing. But if you can get a guy that's dynamic, that guys want to be around, that they will improve in that regard. I don't think, to Dalton Kincaid's credit, I don't think it was really, I think Joe Brady's development this year is going to be a little bit more study on how to use the Y, how to get a little better at, getting your tight ends open, utilization in the passing game.
I don't know if I necessarily believe that, because I thought this offseason, when the season was over, they lost to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I thought it was pretty telling. Bean and McDermott were pretty open and pretty honest. And, you know, one of those things that I thought they were very honest about was him. And, you know, and I'll say this, man, football players, they know, you knew, I knew. If you ask Bruno Fina, if you ask Owen Ostrowski, what they're doing training wise, and what do they think, you better sit down and grab a tasty beverage because they're going to rattle off and tell you about it, right?
Yep.
And
For
they're
sure.
they know. So I'm not shocked by this move, and I agree with you. There's injury situations that are bad luck. There's been a ton of soft tissue injuries on this team. Again, am I putting all the blame there? No, I'm not. But, you know, it's time to maybe after 13 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, that is a long time.
Maybe it's time to freshen up that area. But
yeah.
But real fast, John. So I guess we're of this as we creep up on 30 minutes. We're not there yet, but we're getting close. I guess we're both saying that we love James Cook and we want James Cook here, but you know, I'm not going to overpay for the product, so to speak.
Look, we say the same thing. Offer the guy a reasonable and legitimate offer. Have a conversation. Talk about getting over the hump and what we need outside of his abilities, and ask him, do you want to be a part of this? You've got Josh Allen. You've got this offensive line. What we need is defense. Do you want to take a shot at a ring? Do you want to mortgage maybe a little bit of your earnings? Because this is where we are. We love you. And have that conversation. And who knows where the hell it goes. And before we move on, I just want to say hello to everybody in our chat, from Pamela to Bristol, to McCulix, to Daniel Gowries, to Ralph Wilson Sr., Taliki Fakata from Oklahoma, Randolph, and 716 Sports Blizzard, Levi, everybody, thanks for showing up to the show. Sponsored by the BFLO store. Go to the website, pick up some gear like I got on. Jerry, it's one of those times where we could sit in a bar, you and I, over hopefully a delicious beef on weck at Schwabbles, and then picking up some IPAs and wings at Bar Bill, and talk about it for days on end. And it's that point where you just wish you could hear what's going on, the conversations going on the third floor. Because, God, they're having these same conversations.
Well, I'll say this. I know exactly what that conversation is. They're trying to figure out how the hell to get Myles Garrett in that building. That's what they're doing. And what's funny is, I want to get back into that real quick, John, because we kind of got sidetracked.
You got 3 minutes. Go.
Because you were talking about Greg Rousseau and all that. I think Greg Rousseau is a very good defensive end. But I think in pass rushing situations, and I've been chirping for this for a long time, and it's just from playing guard and playing inside, what gives those guys issues? Length gives inside offensive linemen issues. And I just think if we can bring in a couple of guys to be able to pass rush outside in third down, true pass rush situations, moving Rousseau inside over the guard would do a lot of good. I think that his length would give guards fits, and it would free some things up. So I also think that bringing in another defensive end or two helps Rousseau, because it can maybe move him around across the formation to where he can get some mismatches and do some things over guards that maybe he's not doing outside over tackles.
I love where your head's at, and I want to believe you, but the guy is not self-effacing enough to realize that he does not have even as good a first step from a 2-point that Von Miller did. And if I'm a defensive end, and he plays the run extremely well, and I agree with you, he's a good defensive end, but when it comes to third down and long pass, we're not getting it from him. And if he doesn't have the ability to self-coach and say, wow, when I'm in a 3-point, I'm lower, I come off much stronger, and I'm more explosive down the midline of the tackle, and I can get that 2-3 step drop by the tackle, and by that time I'm in a position to block the ball, affect the quarterback's eyes, get him to get off his mark, and then here comes Epinesa Oliver. I'd like to believe you, but I don't know he's that guy.
Well, I do think he's that guy. I think he can alter the passing lanes on the inside too with his length. Randolph Moore with Super Chat. Appreciate you, Randolph. Finally got a chance to see y'all live. I wanted to beat the Chiefs twice this last season. We're going to win next year. Go Bills. I appreciate you, Randolph. Thank you so much. I hopefully you are you can tell the future, because that would be nice for that to happen.
Yeah, he's an oracle. Randolph, the Oracle Moore. Thanks for coming to the show. Tell a friend, come back. We'd love to see you again.
Right.
Thank you for the super chat.
Before
Jerry, we could this show could be 6 hours long on 3 subjects.
Right, but before I forget, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Also, comment on the shows. If you can't watch it live, you have tomorrow morning. You can hop on any podcasting platform across the internet, in your car, wherever, and listen to us on Spotify, on Amazon, on YouTube, or not YouTube, on Apple Music, all that. So we'll be on podcast there as well. But no, it's funny. I think if you pay attention, and final thoughts before we get out of here on a Sunday night, so we can all go watch the SNL 50th anniversary show. If you if you pay attention and you see what's going on, I think they're telling you what's up. And I think you are going to see this organization make a massive run at defensive talent this offseason. And I do believe it will be through trade, maybe trading players, but definitely trading draft picks, because they've got spots they've got to get better at immediately. They don't have time to develop guys. I would say the one offensive side of the ball person they need to find, obviously, that stretch the field wide receiver, and they will find one. We've already been linked to the Hollywood Brown situation as somebody that they'd be going after. Whether that's smokescreen or not, I do not know. But I think you're going to see them through the coaches that they've hired already, the changes they made, some of the things. This is going to be a defensive offseason in Orchard Park.
Yep. All right. My final thoughts. Give James Cook a legitimate offer and a kiss goodbye, because I think he's gone. Trade him out, whatever you got to do, but don't overpay him. We get that wide receiver stretch in the field in free agency, along with a game record. Trade all the picks and get everybody you need on defense in the top 3 rounds. And, we got a shot. We got Josh Allen. We got a great offensive line. Fix and plug the defense in the right spots. Play great football, and that gets us over the hump, Jerry.
Trade all the picks for Ricky Williams. I'm the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. He's John Fina. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Also, go ahead and give us a review if you have the time. We appreciate you as always. We'll be back, I believe, on Tuesday. I will be back on Thursday night with the Big O Show. Then we'll come back on Sunday. So we'll be rolling 3 days a week, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. But again, we thank you. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching. John, anything?
Go Bills, Jerry-O.
Much love. Go Bills.